Hey, deserving listeners, let's watch 90 Day Fiancé, but this time let's focus on Avery and Ash. A lot of you have been asking me to watch their storyline and react to it. Let's do it. This is the first installment in which I'm going to do this. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I have been a licensed therapist and professor for over 20 years in the field of therapy, psychotherapy, marriage and family therapy, couple therapy. So let's see what happens with Avery and Ash and see if anything of interest comes out of my face.
Made me think, like, is there something else?
Something else that he was trying to hide.
Yeah, but then I also was like, well, if you're so trusting of me, why can't you just be open? So I have a couple trust issues in our relationship. I didn't know anything about the bankruptcy thing till he couldn't get a visa to come over here. He eventually explained to me that his past business partner had taken a lot of money from him, and it just kind of put him in a hole that forced him to have to go into bankruptcy.
So I don't want to speculate at this point too much, but it does have some red flags there, right? That we weren't there for the conversations, but Avery has this impression that Ash was being a little shady, making excuses, and then reveals, oh, I can't get a visa because of this bankruptcy. Now, it's normal. They're dating. It's not like everyone wants to reveal every dirty, dark secret in their lives to someone that they're dating. So it's not uncommon to reveal that later on once you have more trust and more closeness. But from the sound of it, Avery is making it seem like he said lots of excuses. And it is a bit suspicious to say, I have this bankruptcy, but it's not my fault. It's because this other person had this terrible financial situation and they dragged me down with them. Totally not my fault. Now, can that happen? Certainly. But it is there seems to be a lot of little yellow flags. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe we'll find out more information. So let's see what happens there.
We were at dinner.
And Jen's like, it doesn't show on his Facebook that he's in a relationship. So then we went over to his Instagram where he had posted photos of me, and only my photos were deleted.
That was out of the blue? No fight, no nothing before that?
We never had any, this was when we're in pure bliss. So then we started messaging him. He even said somebody must have hacked into my account.
So right away, some yellow flags. I don't want to accuse Ash of being shady and manipulative and pathologically lying and psychopathic. I obviously have no idea. And maybe there's a perfectly reasonable explanation for all this, and maybe Avery doesn't perceive the situation accurately. We've certainly seen that on the show and in life. But that sounds pretty shady too, that one, all of only her photos would be deleted. And then his excuse was someone hacked into my account. So someone hacked into your account and just deleted a bunch of photos of one person. And your Facebook relationship status was also hacked. What? A more reasonable explanation would be I was dating someone else because we're halfway across the world from each other. And I'm not exclusive to you because I have no idea if you and I are going to work out. So on one side of the spectrum, you'd be like, oh, Ash must be a dog. He uses women. He's a liar. On the other end of the spectrum of possibility is that he's a good person and he cares, but he doesn't have a way of asserting himself and actually doesn't necessarily want to be exclusive to a woman halfway across the world for months on end and might be dating other people. It's not uncommon for people to date multiple people at once and to be upfront about that. I just want to let you know I'm not exclusive to you and I'm dating other people. Just want to let you know that totally normal. There's nothing wrong with that lifestyle at all. It's just a matter of being upfront about it. And maybe he's in that position, but he doesn't feel like he can say that for whatever reason. I don't know. But at the very least, some yellow flags of a potential personality trait of knee-jerk reactivity to lie for him right off the bat is something I'm guessing we'll monitor as time goes on.
I had a hard time believing that Ash's social media account got hacked. I thought maybe he was getting messages from other women, and he just didn't want them to know that I was his girlfriend. but he showed me a screenshot of his emails saying that he had been hacked. So I chose to believe him.
So either he's telling the truth, which is, I suppose, possible, and it's a reasonable explanation. He was hacked and someone deleted only her pictures from Instagram. Why would they do that? Or, my God, that he would double down on lie upon lie upon lie. Like, there are very, either he's telling the truth and that's fine because that happens to people. People get hacked and they, or, my God, like if he's not telling, it's one thing if he just said he was hacked, or it's one thing if he just said he had this bankruptcy and it wasn't really his fault. It's another thing to see all of these things, and if all of them are spins on the truth, if all of them are lies, wow. Now, she seems to have a good head on her shoulders in a way, because she's like, this is concerning to me. It didn't seem believable, even though he did say it was hacked. I didn't really believe him. He showed me these emails, and you see her phrase, I'm going to choose to believe him. That tells me that she's not entirely sure. Now, maybe in her head, she's like, well, I want to go to meet him in person and see how things go because I really like him. And, maybe there's an explanation for this. Maybe it's anomalous behavior. Who knows? Or she is so desperate for closeness that she is going to compartmentalize all those things. Or she's actually attracted to people that do these kinds of things. These are all the hypotheses that I have just from this very first 10-minute clip that we're seeing of her. We'll see if we get more data on those hypotheses. Let's see what happens.
But it's been a little hard to gain that trust back.
That's a big red flag.
Really?
You can't deny that. I'm a guy like that. If I did that, I'm hiding something for sure.
My biggest fear with you is I saw what you went through before. I just don't want you to make another mistake to where you're going to be unhappy again.
So it's a great thing for a friend to say. Just like, I'm really scared about you and I don't want you to be hurt again like you were before. Whenever you're in a situation like that as a friend, that's kind of a baseline thing to say. Instead of criticizing, what are you doing? You're so stupid. I can't believe you're doing that. Just state, own your own feelings, know your own feelings, own your own feelings, express your own feelings, have the confidence that you can do that. And also recognize that you just don't have control over other people, and that in all likelihood, she's not going to be like, oh, well, you're afraid? Okay, then I'm not dating him anymore. That is ignoring the entrenched nature of her attraction to him, the entrenched nature of her imagined future with him, the entrenched nature of their mutual attraction and their closeness that they've had over communication that they haven't really shown us. So anyway, as I always say in these videos, everything that I'm saying is based on limited information that the show is choosing to show us and limited information that the actors are choosing to show the cameras. So everything I'm saying should be considered with that in mind, meaning that I could be completely off because I have no idea who these people really are, and I would have to really properly assess them in my office to know anything about them. The only reason why I do this is so that you, the viewer, can gain some knowledge so that you can get the treatment that you deserve. A lot of people are watching these videos and going like, oh, that might be me. What should I do? Go to therapy. These videos are not a replacement for therapy. You need to go to a therapist. And if in your area therapy is not funded or there's not enough therapists, talk to your legislatures, your politicians to make sure that they value those kinds of things. Also, subscribe, hit the bell below, subscribe to our podcast on your phone, in your podcast app, because we have over 1,000 episodes. Some of you are emailing me and saying, hey, talk about this. And I'm like, we talked about that many times before. We have over 1,000 episodes. So if you have a question, in all likelihood, we've talked about it before. Not always. You can certainly email me, and that's fine. And also become a patron on patreon.com and comment below. Let me know what you think about this situation.
Continue to make mistakes. There's always the possibility that Ash is not the person that he's portraying himself as. But I truly believe that I have a connection with Ash that I've never experienced before. So it's time for me to meet him. And I just hope that I'm not let down in any way.
Right. So that's what I was saying. There's nothing wrong with being like, well, there's some shady stuff there, but I've never felt this sort of connection. And so I'm willing to give this a try and see what happens. It seems reasonable to me. Now, the other possibility is that due to some relational trauma that she's been through, some repetitive relationship experience that she experienced in life, that she is actually subconsciously attracted to people who are shady. That's another hypothesis that I would have, a subconscious defense that would section off the behavior that he's exhibiting as like anomalous rather than big red flags that other people would react to. Again, I'm making a lot of assumptions about Ash. Maybe he has perfectly reasonable explanations as to why he did all those things. And, you know, this show is just trying to manipulate us to make us feel bad things about Ash. Anyway, we'll find out.
I can't believe I'm going to see you like for the first time.
I am going to be touching you just to make sure that you're real.
You're not worried about being in my presence like all the time, 24/7?
Honey, okay, if you connect on that soul level, that deep, I think like the rest is just like it's gonna be an easy ride.
Ash does know all the right things to say.
I was going to say that was a very good response from him. It's like, hey, if we connect on a deep level like we do, then everything else is going to be fine. It's actually something that I don't see a lot of couples saying in this show, is that kind of talk that speaks to the deepness of love that is usually present in the beginning of relationships, not always. It's a style of deep love communication that he's exhibiting. When he said that, I was like, oh, that's refreshing. He's actually saying, now one way to look at it is the way she's saying is that he always knows the right thing to say. Another way to say it is that he knows how to look into himself and identify what it feels like to have intimacy and connection with someone, and he knows how to articulate that. I suppose we'll find out as time goes on.
Because he's a relationship coach. Sometimes I wonder if like he's being genuine or if he's just telling me what I want to hear because he knows what I want to hear.
So, relationship coach, that can mean a lot of different things. It probably means he is not a clinician, meaning he doesn't have what we consider to be accredited education around clinical matters and theory and professionalism and ethics. I, as a relationship therapist, as a licensed therapist in my state, that means that I have I have a bachelor's degree, I have 2 master's degrees, and I have a doctorate degree. And all of those postgraduate degrees were geared towards clinical assessment tools, clinical skill to treat, professionalism, ethics, research. How do you read research? How do you understand implementing research? How do you know outcomes? How do you assess outcomes? Now, all that is very buttoned up and clinical, but I come across to my clients in a very human way. I'm not someone who treats people like they're in a lab or something. You know, I'm very human with my clients. So my training makes it so that it's more likely that I know what I'm doing. My training makes it that I'm more likely to be ethical and more professional. It doesn't guarantee it. Plenty of people in my profession are terrible at their jobs. Plenty of people in my profession with my education are unethical and do harmful things to their clients, sometimes really severely harmful things. So it's not like having my education from an accredited program and licensed by my state necessarily means that everything's on the up and up. Some of you listeners will have stories that you've been mistreated by licensed people. Being a coach often means that it can mean a lot of things. It can mean that you actually do have some education. It can mean that you do uphold and adhere to some ethical standards. But it could also mean nothing. A 13-year-old kid who knows nothing about anything can call themselves a relationship coach. That's just the nature of how things are going. Now, he is in Australia. Maybe they have standards. I'm guessing they don't because coaching is still mostly unregulated, mostly a non-licensed. You know, it's like saying that you are an astrologist or something. You know, there isn't a recognized legal governmental body that regulates what that means. And that, you can't call yourself a medical doctor, right? You can't claim that you can practice medicine. Why? Because the state governments usually regulate that, if not always. And they regulate who can call themselves a licensed marriage and family therapist like myself, or a psychologist, or a mental health counselor, or a psychiatrist, or a social worker, these kinds of people. Anyway, coaches are not regulated. So when he says relationship coach, that can mean a lot of different things. I know people in my city that I have worked with collaboratively, coaches who were excellent at their job. They were very good as coaches. They really helped a lot of people. And they knew their lane, meaning that they didn't dip into clinical treatment. There are also lots of coaches that are terrible at their job, and they hang a shingle and they just claim they know what they're doing when they don't. And they do a lot of unethical things, and they will do pseudo-clinical treatment without any training and without any responsibility, and harm a lot of people. And so there's a lot of variance in the coaching world. So I guess we'll find out what kind of coach he is. The other thing I'll say is that relationship coach can mean a lot of different professional activities, from one-on-one conversation, like, let's talk about your relationships. Let's talk about improving your relationships. Another relationship coach activity could be giving seminars or doing YouTube videos. Another relationship coach activity I could imagine being very hands-on, and like, I'm going to be in a relationship with you as you develop a relationship with me, or whatever. Relationship. The term relationship coach in 2020 can mean a billion different things, and I'm excited to find out what he means by it. Maybe it's totally legit, and maybe he's really helpful to his people and very ethical, and he's not harming anyone. We'll find out.
Hi, Taj. How are you? Ash has a 10-year-old son named Taj. He's been married before and divorced. He shares custody of his son with his ex-wife's son.
So another thing that people might be thinking is, well, he's a relationship coach, so he knows how to manipulate women. There's no reason to extend that. I'm a marriage counselor. I specialize in couples, among other kinds of specialties: trauma, individuals, families. I've had a lot of specialties over the 20 plus years, but one of the consistent specialties I've had is couples. But I hope you wouldn't think that because I'm a couples therapist, I know how to manipulate women into liking me or something like that. If anything, being a couples therapist means I'm more aware of my own issues, and I'm better able to communicate them in a way that takes responsibility for my part of the problem. Because I've seen so many couples fight in my office, I'm always wondering, what am I doing that is problematic like these people? And a very frequent thing I come to for myself is, I'm not taking responsibility for how I'm contributing, or I don't feel like I'm contributing to this problem with my wife, but I guarantee you I probably am, and I'm just clouded to it because I'm emotional. And so being a couples therapist has helped me to be less manipulative in a lot of ways. So just because he's a relationship coach doesn't mean that it inherently means he uses it for evil. Can you use it for evil? Absolutely. But it's not inherent to the job. The other thing I'll say is, some people will say, if he's such a good relationship coach, then why is he divorced? This is an unfair thing to say. Relationships are varied. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes you meet the wrong person. Sometimes you get married too young when you didn't really know, or you gave it your best shot. Who knows? There's a lot of reasons why relationships end, and a lot of relationships do end in divorce. And we shouldn't shame that. It happens. It happens to the best of us. We give it our best shot. It doesn't work out. Plenty of people who work in my field of couples therapy have had divorces. A broader statement we could say is, plenty of people in my specialty of couples therapy have entered into a relationship hoping it was going to last forever, and it didn't last forever, whether that was marriage and divorce, or being a fiancé and breaking up, or being exclusive to each other for 2 years and breaking up. So when we extend relationships to all breakup situations, I think we can agree it's just like, well, sometimes things, take a turn, and you decide to break up amicably or otherwise, and, it happens. So we don't want to shame that. Another thing that I'll see sometimes is when therapists will have their own kids, and their kids will be struggling with something. And the therapist will just feel so ashamed. It's like, I'm a therapist. I know all the right things. Why is my kid having problems? Just because you know what to do and you know how to help other people does not mean you're not human. Just because you've studied a lot, and just because I, as a couples therapist, know how to help people, and I'm very good at it because I've been doing it for 20 plus years, and I supervise. I mean, a big portion of my life is doing couples therapy or talking about it or teaching it. I've been training couples therapists for 20 plus years. I've been supervising couples therapists for 20 plus years. I've been doing couples therapy. My specialty at my university is a class called Applied Couple Therapy. I love the class. I wish it was a 10-year course, but it's only a certain amount of months. And yet I have problems in my marriage sometimes. So why is that? Well, because I'm human. I'm a human being. Just because I am trained in this does not mean I suddenly become a god or a robot or I don't even know what, some sort of creature that doesn't have human emotional reactivity and insecurity and hurt feelings and confusion and flooding emotions and a past and traumas and hurt. I'm a human being. So that's what I'll say about that with Ash. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because I feel like this show has fed us a lot of negativity about him. And so I want to, he's innocent until proven guilty for sure.
What about his mom, Sian? Like, how does she feel?
She will actually just support whatever it needs to. If Taj is happy, she will support that.
What if Taj wanted to come to America like full time?
I know it's going to be challenging for her, but she's got a positive outlook on that too.
As a mom, I would have a really hard time.
Whatever it needs.
What? So that's such a weird way of putting it. So she's saying, what about Taj's mom? How does mom? What if Taj was to come all the way to the States? How would Taj's mom feel about that? And Ash is like, oh, she'll be fine. Everything, she knows it'll be a challenge, but she's got a positive outlook. Everything will be fine. So there's no scenario in which there's something wrong with that statement. So let's go through the possibilities. Either the mom truly doesn't care, which happens sometimes, in which case Ash should be saying something like, you know what, Avery, I know this sounds weird, but Taj's mom, she's kind of different. And when I talked about it, when I brought that up and I said, me and Taj might move to the States, I just want to let you know, Sian, the mother, she didn't seem to care. And you're just going to have to believe me that she loves Taj, but she's not that into being a parent. And so it's really unfortunate that she doesn't care that much, but that's kind of the way that it is. That would be the way you would say that, right? That would be the way that you would present that very unusual conclusion that his mother doesn't care about being completely separated from her son. The other possibility is that the mother does care and Ash is trying to cover it up by saying, oh, everything's fine, she'll be fine. Like, I can't imagine a scenario in which what he just said makes any sense. So maybe it's a third or fourth option that I can't think of as to why he would word it that way. Now, innocent until proven guilty, but there are some red flags. A lot of things are pointing already to him being a person who spins the truth or deceives or has some sort of defense. Now, why would someone be that way? Well, maybe it was modeled to him growing up to spin the truth. Maybe he is so desperate for love that he feels like he has to lie to get love. Maybe he's trying to con her in order to come to the United States. Certainly that is a possibility. I want to think the best thoughts about Ash because I don't know why. I just feel like I need to be careful about drawing any conclusions, but I don't know. There's a lot of concerning red flags here. Let's see if this show can belay my fears.
As a mom, I would have a really hard time with my child like going all the way across the other side of the world. Am I going to be able to meet Sian?
You know what? I've been trying to actually make sure that this happens.
If my child were to be taken across the other side of the world, that would be completely devastating for me. And so it's really important for me to have a conversation with Sion and really gauge how she feels about the situation.
That's really smart of Avery. Just go to the source, find out, because if she's going to be married to him and have a stepson who has a mother, it's all part of the system. When you marry someone like Ash, you are now involved with the ex-wife. And I see a lot of people not really accepting that. They meet Ash and they fall in love and they're like, I want to be involved with you, and your son can come along too. He seems sweet. And what you don't consider is when you connect yourself to Ash, you are connected to his ex-wife, you're connected to his parents, his friends and family. And before you move forward, you kind of want to figure that out and maybe build some bonds between you and these other individuals. A lot of Americans actually, I have found, feel this way. They're just like, I'm just dating them. I'm not dating his ex. I'm not dating his parents. I'm not dating his cousins. I'm not dating his siblings. I'm just dating him. And who cares about the other people? That doesn't usually practically make any sense. Sometimes it does, but often it doesn't. Now, that doesn't mean that you're supposed to put up with bad behavior in these other people, but it does mean that you should consider it and also try to develop relationships with those people. And it's really great that Avery has that knee-jerk reaction of, well, I'm going to meet this woman and we're going to have a talk and I want to get to know her. Maybe, hopefully that's what Avery is thinking of.
I kind of remember you talking about it before, but like, why did your guys' marriage end?
So we grew apart from each other on many levels. So like how I build a business, how I build my life, it's very different from the way that she does it. And
well,
it's
I mean, like,
true.
I feel like you and I are going to have some differences too. Do you?
So again, I want to not look into everything, but that response is just so odd that he would say, the reason why we divorced is because our careers were different. Isn't that what he said? I want to rewind it.
I kind of remember you talking about it before, but like, why did your guys' marriage end?
So we grew apart from each other on many levels. So like how I build a business, how I build my life, it's very different from the way that she does it. And
well,
yeah, I mean, it's normal for people to not go into full detail about their divorces and their past relationships and to have these kinds of narratives of just like, well, we grew apart or we weren't in the same place. So, maybe that's what he's saying. But there's just so many things pointing now. Maybe the show is only giving us all that stuff. The show is choosing to show us all the shady stuff. And so they're messing with my head. So I don't know. We'll find out.
we just have a really good connection.
You think that's a good idea? Going, halfway around the world? My gut reaction is that sounds kind of silly.
Really, you know nothing about him except for what you see and hear on your phone, which I think is really weird that people even do that.
Will you be safe and have somewhere to stay?
You're not sleeping at his house, are you?
So this is interesting. We're getting a little glimpse into Avery's family of origin. And although it's common for some older people to not really understand the way that people meet these days on the internet and such, they seem to care about Avery and they're worried about her. But the mother is coming on what I would call to be a little strong and a little beyond a threshold of judgmentalness to the point where Avery doesn't seem to be taking that all too well. Again, as I always say, there's nothing wrong with expressing your own fears and saying something like, well, what you're telling me really scares me and I'm really concerned about you. So I don't know how to advise you in this situation, but I just really hope you're being careful because I love you a lot. Is there anything you can tell me that would reassure me that this isn't going to end in disaster for you? Because I'm really worried. There's nothing wrong with saying something like that, but I wonder, I'm always wondering about the people and their childhood, just to what relational traumas they have that inform the relationship issues they get into later. So maybe we'll get some more data here.
I'm a little concerned, you don't know this guy, and you get over there and he is an aggressive person. Have you thought about how you would deal with that?
Avery's made a lot of bad mistakes in her life with men. She's got her kids to think about. He's got a kid. I don't know.
So the son is 10 years old?
Yeah.
How does that work, Avery? You know, him having a child there.
It's hard to know, but there is a little red flag of the way that they're talking to her, the conclusions that they're making. Although a lot of parents would have these kinds of concerns, they seem to be coming on a little strong, which makes us wonder, what was Avery's childhood like? Total hypothesis, total speculation. Maybe she was raised by parents who were pretty harsh, pretty critical, and that could result in Avery feeling bad about herself, feeling stupid or made to feel little. And what that can do to people is, and there's a little bit of indication in Avery around this, is it can make them feel like they're just not good enough, that they are inherently a screw up, that they're inherently not good enough for love and attention because of being treated in a negative way when they're young. And as a result, you will look for anyone that loves you and really latch on to that. Even if you have red flags going off, like, I don't think this is the right person for me. Like, there's a possibility, given Avery's issues, that subconsciously what's happening with Ash is she's seeing those red flags. As she talks about him, Ash seems to have some shady behavior. But subconsciously, she might be like, no one's going to love me for who I really am. And this guy seems to really love me for who I am. So I'm willing to take these red flags, or I'm willing to compartmentalize them and deny them because someone finally loves me for who I am. I've been rejected in my past. I don't think anyone will ever love me the way he does, which feels like a lot of love that's happening to me. And so this is a lot of speculation and a lot of hypotheses. I would want to ask each one of the individuals here, how does this sound to you, and modify it based on what they're saying. As always, whenever I watch these shows, I have to say I'm completely speculating. I'm basing it on very little data. So take all that I'm saying with that in mind. Let's see if we get some more data that might indicate Avery's childhood experiences.
That's honestly my biggest concern, is that he is a relationship coach. So he knows all the right things to say.
Right.
And I just want to see how authentic he is, because he really, truly is like the perfect person.
So as a relationship therapist, I don't appreciate the prejudice that relationship people know all the right things to say. Again, as I've said earlier, true relationship therapists, it's the opposite, that I guess we know how to manipulate people if we wanted to, but why would we want to? We're looking for true love. We're looking for an actual relationship. Why would we want to manipulate? I should take that back. I probably don't know how to manipulate people, because why would you need to know that skill? So now people will be like, well, he's a relationship coach, and so that's different. So I don't know. I just want everyone to, because there's probably a lot of relationship coaches out there that are like, hey, I don't manipulate people. I use my forces for good. Why does that prejudice? And I guess it extends to a larger prejudice about people in my profession that, well, he's a therapist, so he knows how to manipulate people. There's no class that any of us take that is how to manipulate people 101. There's no graduate level class of how to manipulate your romantic partners or how to manipulate people in general. That's what marketers do. That's what business people do. They actually do learn. They take classes. I actually have a marketing degree. That's my bachelor's degree, because I didn't know what to study when I was 20 years old, and I was just sort of grasping at straws. And my sister went to business school, and so I was like, oh, that sounds good. Anyway, so there are professions that the classes are specifically designed on how to manipulate people. Therapists and coaches are not, those kinds of people. Now, there are some red flags that he's manipulative. We'll find out more as time goes on, but I would imagine that has more to do with his personality and not his profession. But who knows? We'll find out, I guess.
I'm looking for my future husband. So if our relationship is everything that I have thought it is up till now, I would love to marry Ash. But I have 2 beautiful daughters, and it's extremely important for me and my daughters to have stability. I really hope that Ash is the person that he says he is.
All right, well, that does it for that episode in which I react to 90 Day Fiancé. This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast, unless you didn't know from the sign that's right up there. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself. Tune in next time when we continue to follow Avery and Ash. And take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do. Am I manipulating you with my magical psychology ways? You make the call.